You must obey, for he will rain down fire and brimstone on the wicked and scorch them with his burning wind. He is God. Huh. Yeah, I don't remember God's name being Stanley.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful week with The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. Ladies, how y'all feel? Fellas, y'all all right? It's the last Sunday of the month, March 30th, which means these damn bills is right around the corner. Oh, I swear being an adult sucks ass more than Diddy's cellmate. Mm. I'm sorry, that might have been too early. See, this is what happens when I don't have my liquor, okay? Like April 12th needs to hurry up and get here because 30 days no liquor or soda got me acting a damn fool. But I'm nice and hydrated though. That good old H2O. Speaking of which, what y'all sipping on? Y'all know I gotta live vicariously through y'all until April 12th. I do have my snacks though. I got my popcorn bucket and my favorite candy ever, Twix. Like I could eat these all day, every day. I mean, my teeth would, probably be fucked up all the hell, but yeah, that's besides the point. So, I hope y'all got y'all snacks and y'all drinks ready because I ain't even about to waste anybody's time. Let's get into it. Y'all buckle up and get ready to ride. I do have to advise two things with this case. One, it involves the death of minors. And two, because of how much is involved with this case, there will be at least two parts, possibly more. So it'll spill into next week. Like the trial itself lasted 46 days, and not to mention the amount of documentaries on this case. Now, I know y'all are thinking, well, wait a minute, Kay, you said for the month of April that you was going to do a series on celebrities behind bars that, thought that they was about their life for real. And I did. And if y'all are good, y'all might be getting two episodes every Sunday for the next couple of weeks. I don't know. You got to tune in to see. Okay. But baby, this case right here, whew, good God, it is a lot. I hope y'all are ready. Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. Now, again, this case does involve the death of minors, so listener discretion is advised. Now, this week's case has a lot of parties involved. Like, actually, the case in its entirety has a lot of parties involved. Like, I'm talking like over 30 people. But for this week, for the sake of the episode, I'm going to focus solely on the people that are involved in this part of it. Okay? All right, here we go. This week's case involves Jared Boggs, victim, Deja Huggins, victim, Kyle Huggins, victim, Olivia Huggins, victim, Cameron Huggins, victim, Brittany Boggs, Angela's daughter and surviving victim, Dennis Huggins, victim, Angela Boggs, victim, Patrick Boggs, Angela's soon to be ex husband and assailant, Lindell Lewis, victim, Tom Hughley, the surviving victim and Lindell's tenant, Gloria Hart, Lindell's girlfriend and victim, Chester Williams, witness and I guess you could say initial friend of Stanley's, Tiffany Gary, witness and neighbor, Beverly Ewing, witness and neighbor, and the infamous murderer of the week, Stanley Ford. Stanley O. Ford was born April 8th, 1959, to Mary Lucille Ford and Thomas Ford in Akron, Ohio. He grew up in a very prominent neighborhood in Sherbondi Hills. I guess you could say it was kind of somewhat of a middle class family. He had two sisters, Constance and Felicia, and he had a brother named Michael. He grew up in the church and was very religious, which explains so much about his behavior. Homie was extremely religious. Now, there's not much on his childhood, but Stanley pretty much lived in Akron, Ohio his entire life. Like, he grew up living on Hillcrest Street. He got married to his wife, Zanita Sims. Now, Zanita was everything that he wanted in a wife. She was a school teacher for the Akron, Ohio school system. She was the perfect mom. Like, she would, come home, she'd go out to work, make, go what's the phrase? Go get the bacon and bring it home to cook it. Okay? That's how she was. Now, a little bit after all of this, she moved to North Carolina for a bit, but ended up coming back. But, you know, they had two daughters together, Zaria, who was born in 2006, and Sky, who was born in 2012. So, for the most part, Stanley was living the hot life. He had his house, his wife, and his family. Hell, this trick daddy ass shaped nigga even got to be a stay at home daddy while his wife worked. And that irks me because, like, this bad built nigga here had, like, no work history. I could find not Nathan on this nigga's work history. And I know I'm starting pretty early. I know y'all are like, damn, she done already called him bad built and trick daddy. Yes, I did. I'm starting early because this case pissed me all the way off. Okay. Anyway, so he's living the high life when tragedy struck in 2008 when his mother Mary died. Now, I wasn't able to find out if his father died or if he just like dipped, but he never mentioned him, only his mama. Everybody only mentioned the mama. I don't know. Maybe the daddy was a Rolling Stone. Who knows? Now, clearly, he had gotten married and started his life with his wife, and they actually bought the house a few doors down from where he grew up on Hillcrest Street. So, where he grew up with his mom, he lived at 1374 Hillcrest, and then he bought the house at 1370 Hillcrest. So, it was literally like two houses over. Now, his house was a little bit smaller because it was just him and his wife and his two daughters. But when his mom died, she actually left him her house. And Stanley kept it up pretty well and, made sure to maintain it and all of that. Everyone in the neighborhood respected him and, they thought he was a really nice gentleman. He would take walks with his girls in the neighborhood. He would cut his grass and, of course, sometimes he would help his neighbors out by cutting their grass cuz he wanted the neighborhood to look beautiful, lend a helping hand to your neighbor. That's what the good book says. Like, one of those neighbors was Chester and his wife, Betty Williams. They were really good neighbors to him from across the street. And he had this other neighbor that he was really good friends with by the name of Lindell that he connected with the most. Now, Lindell Lewis was born August  31st, 1950, to the late Judge Jordan and Leslie Lewis. He and his family grew up in Akron, Ohio. He had three sisters, Geraldine, Juanita, Alfreda, and two brothers, Gregory and Willie. Baby, when I told these names, it is like I done went through a time machine. Shit. All right. So they all grew up together, very close knit. He began his career and worked as a union bricklayer, where he worked for quite a while, like 30 years to be exact. And he was previously married to a woman by the name of Francine Trice for a while, but ultimately they ended up getting a divorce. It's not working out, Cloretta. I can't be with you no more, Cloretta. Like you, when I was reading this case and like looking at all the names and stuff, I don't know why, but the movie Fences came to mind when Troy popped up at the house and was just like, "Oh, she ain't nothing but a little itty bitty baby. Her mama died giving birth to her." And I was like, "Girl, if you don't fuck Troy's ass up, he done brought you some other bitch's baby and asked you to girl, Rose, get it together, fuck him up one good time, sis." But that's what this reminded me of for some reason. So anyway, so like I said, he had married Francine Trice, but they ended up getting a divorce. Not before they had kids together though. So they had Lynetta. Larry Jr., Tisha, and Jordan. Now, Lindell lived in the neighborhood as well. Like I said, he stayed at 719 Fultz Avenue. And of course, at this point, since he and his wife had divorced, he done met him a new little boo thing. Okay. And that boo thing's name was Gloria Jean Hart. See, I told you these good old names from back in the day. Names like Gloria Jean, Ethel May, Bertha, Willie Earl. Listen, oh, I love these good old country names. So Gloria Jean Hart was born May 6th, 1949 in Meridian, Mississippi to Ezua and Mary J. Hinton. I love that name, Ezua. That is so different. She lived her earlier years in Meridian, Mississippi, followed by moving to Arizona, and then she relocated to Akron, Ohio in 1962 at the tender age of 21. For the most part, while she lived in Akron, she lived on the east side, and her entire life, she worked at the Chrysler stamping plant. And when I say her entire life, just like Lindell, she had worked there for 30 years. Now, much like her man Lindell, she had also been previously married. She had married a man by the name of Samuel J. Hart, and together they had children as well, Monique and Tamika. And she also came from a pretty big family. She had three brothers, Charles, Marion, and Raymond, as well as a sister, Belinda. And like many neighbors in the Shabandi Hills area, she attended church and was heavily involved. She was a member of Zion Temple Baptist Church, and she served on many ministries such as the Culinary Arts Ministry, the Hospitality Ministry, and the Women's Ministry. Shout out to the Women's Ministry. First of all, let me tell y'all something. With that culinary arts, that means y'all know every Sunday after service, y'all gonna get that good food, honey. Y'all gonna go down into that church basement after the pastor gets a preaching. Y'all gonna go down to that church basement, child, and y'all gonna have that good old fried chicken with that seasoning that don't make no kind of sense, and them yams and them greens and all of that. That's gonna give you the highest of the highest blood pressures. Amen. But it's okay. Let me quit. I'm sorry. So yeah, she served on a lot of ministries. Like I said, the culinary arts, the hospitality ministry, the women's ministry. She was very involved into the church. So Lindell and Gloria Jean, they lived together at that address on Fultz Avenue after they had, both divorced and had met each other and everything. And they had this whole stigma of living in sin and it's ungodly. And you're not supposed to live in sin, which is funny because these are older people, like they're in their 50s and 60s at the time. Matter of fact, Gloria Jean is actually 5 years older than Lindell. Like, Shotty Girl was a little bit of a cougar. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know if cougar would be the word, more like puma, maybe. I don't know. Cause yeah, like I said, they were in their 50s and 60s. So hey, she was up there. But anyway, they lived in the neighborhood as well and were good friends with Stanley. And Stanley typically got along with everybody, including Lindell. But the only thing is, Lindell was kind of a different version of helpful, like in his own way, which was completely different than Stanley's way. And see, Stanley's way of helping people was like, oh, okay, let me take you to church. Let me, look after the neighborhood, make sure nobody's bothering you. Let me cut your grass, things like that. And, wanting to be that good neighbor to people like Lindell. But Lindell's way of doing things, as far as helping people, was by like, bringing people to his house and giving them a place to stay, kind of helping them out with odd jobs here and there, referring the people to, folks in the neighborhood, all stuff like that. And Stanley didn't necessarily agree with the way Lindell did things. Like Lindell was the type of man that would offer his help, but he liked to have fun too. His kids is grown, they out the fucking house. Turn up. If that was something they even knew about. Anyway, but he would have parties at his house, and a lot of times he had like these get-togethers and had people that, lived at his house that weren't necessarily on the lease or had the cleanest records. And one of those was a man by the name of Tom Hughley. Tom Hughley was like a neighborhood, I guess you could call him, I don't want to say less than average Joe, but He had problems. He had fallen on some hard times, unfortunately. He had become homeless and, he had a history of dealing with drugs. Now, he was an older man, much like Lindell and Stanley, but he needed a little bit of help. And Tom would go around the neighborhood thanks to Lindell, and he would knock on people's doors and, ask them if he could cut their grass in exchange for money or, food or whatever. And that was his way of trying to make a living. And Lindell saw him doing it and decided, okay, hey, I'm going to let him cut my grass too. And he also offered him a place to stay. And Tom was very happy. And of course, he accepted it. So he moved into the basement of Lindell and Gloria's house. And it wasn't anything new because Lindell always let people come stay in his basement. He would charge them a, moderate fee, whatever, whatever. Smart. Make your money. I ain't mad at it. So he moved into the basement, and Stanley did not like that at all. He knew of Thomas, and to him, Tom was just like a troublemaker, a drug addict, somebody that he didn't want in his neighborhood. So he goes to Lindell and he's like, Brother Lewis, why do you have this man living with you? He's nothing but trouble. And I mean, he was somewhat right because while Tom lived with Lindell, Lindell would have these parties and people would come over and kick it and hang out on the porch and everything. And they'd be drinking all hours of the night. It would be crazy. And Stanley, in his eyes anyway, he's the king of the block. He's the watch captain. He's the self proclaimed neighborhood watch captain like George Zimmerman's punk ass. But that's a whole other story, and God knows I can't even think about getting into that right now without getting pissed, so Imma keep it pushing. So anyway, Lindell is living his life and, having fun and everything. Now, he's got a couple of health issues, so it prevents him from having full mobility. But luckily, he's got his people there to help him out as far as doing things for him, when things get a little rough, and he's getting ready to have surgery and all of that. But he ain't about to let mobility issues keep him from having no fun. The more parties that he has, he's having a blast. And Stanley is getting more and more upset because he's just like, You are disrespecting the neighborhood. You're bringing the property value down. Lindell would have parties, and Stanley swore that there would be prostitutes and drug addicts and all kind of shit there at that party. One day, Stanley was outside with his daughter when what he believes was a prostitute walked up to him and was like, "Hey, can I use your cell phone?" And he said, "Harlot, I ain't got no cell phone. Harlot, get thee away from me." I I don't know why I said harlot. It just flows. And so she tells him, "Okay, well, this is what he says." She says, "Okay, well, can I come to your house? Because I know where you live. Baby, I can make it worth your while." And I'm just sitting back like, nigga, what the fuck? First of all, I doubt some chick was trying to prostitute herself to this Magilla gorilla, bad built, grew from despicable me shape looking ass nigga. But okay. Naturally, you can see this pissed me off. He just really did not like the fact that Lindell was being so disrespectful to him by having these people, at his home or in front of his home. He felt like it was wrong. And I mean, Lindell did have some, questionable friends, but at the end of the day, that was his property. He could do what he wanted to do. So one night, Stanley's at home and it's late at night and he hears his window being busted from his bedroom. So he jumps up and he tells his wife, Zanita, he's like, Listen, you and the girls, y'all stay here. I'm going to go see what's going on. And he shuffles his ass into the living room and he sees that his window's been busted out. And automatically he's like, Oh, I know who did it. And he goes right to Lindell's house, pointing his shriveled up, wrinkled up ass finger and says, Your friend Tom Hughley is the one who did this. And Tom is like, What? Motherfucker, I ain't do shit. But Stanley ain't trying to hear that. He's arguing with him. No, you did it. I know you did it. And Lindell, he's trying to keep the peace. Like, he's like, fuck, here we go again with this. Now, these are church going people, so I doubt they were cussing as much as I am. But then again, so, Lindell is trying to keep this peace. And he's just like, okay, all right. Y'all got to calm this down. And after a few minutes, him and Stanley actually start fighting. Like they are getting into it to the point that one of the neighbors, Tiffany Gary or Tiffany Gray, she sees them fighting and she's going off and she was like, "Are you two fools crazy? Y'all too old to be out here fighting in these streets like teenagers." And it's true because both of them were well into their 50s. Y'all big grown asses is too old to be out here fighting in these streets like cats and dogs. Y'all know damn well you need to be sitting your asses somewhere soaking in some Epsom salt, watching Wheel of Fortune, eating a Salisbury steak and tapioca pudding with the skin attached to it. Sat your ass down somewhere. I'm just saying. But they eventually calm down, and Lindell takes it a step further and says, "You know what, Stanley? My bad. I'm sorry. I don't think he did it, but how about I just go ahead and pay for your window that got busted? I'll take care of it." Just to, kind of cool shit out a little bit. And Stanley's like, "All right, okay, good. I know you will. Good. Whatever." But it didn't really, die anything down because Stanley was still subjected to the partying and all of that. Because Lindell wasn't about to stop that shit. Now, I will say Lindell did try to be like somewhat peaceful. Like he tried to be cordial about the whole situation with Stanley to where he could, still do his thing. What he did was he ended up buying a van, like a minivan. And instead of everybody partying on the front porch, they would hang out in the minivan. And, this way, I guess they had somewhat of some privacy to where they weren't, subjected to Stanley's, disapproving looks or, whatever, or they didn't have to worry about it being as loud. It was still loud. Don't get it twisted. It was still fucking loud, but just not as loud. And so, you know, they would hang out in the van and they could go to sleep in there. They could do their drugs in there or whatever. And I don't know, like, it's kind of weird because Lindell's a religious man and he's trying to help them. But at the same time, I feel like he's kind of enabling them. Like, that's just how I'm looking at it. So, anyway, he buys this van and a lot of people are in it, like a lot of the times. And like I said, even though it's not as loud because they're not directly on the street anymore, it's still loud. It's still nights where the partying is going on until like 1 and 2 in the morning. And Stanley is just fed up. So, one night in 2016, the neighborhood residents all sleeping peacefully in their beds and they wake up to a vehicle fire. And that vehicle is the van that was parked in Lindell's driveway. Mm, it has caught fire. Oh, Lord, there's fire. So the cops come out there and the fire department comes out and they put the fire out. And Lindell is looking right at Stanley. But Stanley's real nonchalant. Like, that nigga is cocky. I don't know what you're talking about, sinner. I ain't do anything. I had nothing to do with it. It must have been God, Sodom and Gomorrah. But Lindell wasn't having that. Mm-mm. So after that incident, he hit up his boy Terrence Sibley. Now, Terrence is another troubled individual that Lindell had helped in the past and that he was cool with. And, he needed his help. So Terrence didn't mind returning a favor. He had been helped in the past. So he was like, all right, cool. So Lindell tells Terrence, hey, I bought some cameras and I need you to install them for me. Now, remember, Lindell was also having some health issues and he was actually scheduled for a hip surgery soon. So Terrence is happy to oblige. Yeah, bro, no problem. I got you. I got you. Say less. So Terrence comes over and he installs 4 cameras around Lindell's house. But as he's installing them, Lindell had a very strange request. He tells Terrence, I need you to point one of them cameras right at Stanley's house, right there. Now, Terrence didn't think anything of it. He just said, okay. And, he did what he was asked. He points the camera right at Stanley's house. And when Stanley sees that he's got a camera aimed at his crib, y'all know that nigga wasn't happy about that. He came out there all huffing and puffing, breathing all heavy, Dickie Smalls and shit. Not Biggie Smalls. I said Dickie Smalls. But anyway, so he comes out there. What do you think you're doing? Who told you that you could put the camera over here? But Lindell was standing his ground. He wasn't backing down this time. He was like, listen, he told Stanley straight up, look, clump. Okay, that was the last one, sorry. But he tells him, "This is my property. I can do what the hell I wanna do." So while he did that, his other neighbor, Chester, he decides that he wants to install some cameras at his house as well. And I mean, you can't be too careful, right? You just had a vehicle fire out of nowhere. Now, he didn't necessarily aim it directly at Stanley's house, but the way that they were positioned, see, Chester lives across the street, so you could see Stanley's house regardless. So now he's got two different cameras aimed on his house. Now remember, the van has caught fire, but nobody has connected it to Stanley. The only person that is adamant about it being him is Lindell's tenant, Thomas. So he flat out tells Stanley, "Nigga, I know you did it." And Stanley, in return, threatens him and punches him in the face. These are some crazy biblical people. Like, for y'all to be so religious and so sanctified and holy, and you just going around here threatening people, you putting hands on people. Like, he decked Tom in the face. And when I tell you these old geezers is getting it, woo shit. But the problems only escalate from there because now Lindell has gone into the hospital for his hip surgery and he can't really keep an eye on things like he normally does. And people are still partying and carrying on at his house. They hanging out on the front porch, but he's got this hip surgery. So he's confined to the bedroom upstairs. He's got a walker that he's got to move around on. And Gloria, she's there to take care of him, of course, but there's still a lot of work that has to be done, and that's a lot of work on her to be able to take care of him, plus, keep the house up and all of that while all of these people are still coming in and out. So while he's upstairs confined to the bed, his people are still outside throwing parties and stuff, and they're back on the porch because the van is burnt to a crisp. And, he's no longer talking to Stanley about it. He was just like on some fuck that nigga, y'all do y'all. And on top of everything else, there's cars in the neighborhood that are being broken into and windows being busted out of the vehicles, all of that. At one point, Stanley's car happened to be one of the vehicles that was broken into. And there were some kids in the neighborhood. One of them was the son of Nigel Sams by the name of Devontae. Now, Stanley had it dead set in his mind that Nigel was the one that was responsible for doing all of the damage. And I mean, he's harassing this boy. He's accusing him and threatening him, talking about how he gonna body him, all of that. This nigga is 50 plus years old, trying to sound like he a teenager. Like Nigel told Stanley, "Hey, you need to leave my son the fuck alone. You don't want no smoke." Mm. Yeah, funny choice of words because on April 18th, 2016, Lindell had another party at his house. Now, the party died down around 1 o'clock in the morning. A few hours later, around 3:22 a.m., 911 dispatchers get a call from Betty Williams, Chester's wife. She calls and she says, "I need y'all to get the fire department here quick. There's a fire at 719 Fultz Avenue. My neighbor's house is on fire. Get here fast, please." So police and fire get dispatched and they come out to see that the house is ablaze. Now, on the inside, Lindell and Gloria are sleeping upstairs and Tom is asleep in the basement. But Tom wakes up to the smell of smoke and he knows something is up. So he goes outside and he leaves through an exit that's there in the basement. He goes outside and he sees that the house has flames everywhere. The front porch is on fire. The flames are going through the house like quickly. And so he's trying to figure out how to get to them since the fire is on the main floor. Gloria and Lindell wake up, and Gloria is trying to help Lindell get out of the bed and, get to safety. But Lindell had just had that hip surgery. So he's not moving that quickly because he has to have a walker to help him move around. So Lindell is telling Gloria, just get out the house. Just go save yourself. Baby Gloria was not leaving her man, Lindell. "I'm not leaving you up here by yourself. We gonna get out of here." So they go into one of the rooms and they try to open the window. They're successful in getting the window open. Tom is outside of the window and he sees Gloria and Lindell and he's telling them, like he's yelling to them, "Y'all gotta jump. Y'all gotta jump." But Lindell already knows he's not gonna be able to make it. and he's screaming for help. He's begging Tom, "Please get help. Please get help." And Tom is yelling right back at him, "Lindell, you gotta jump, man. You gotta jump." Lindell once again looks and he sees and he knows he's not going to make it. He can't lift himself that high. He tells Gloria to try to jump and she can't do it either. The flames are still going and the fire department is en route, but they're not there yet. By the time that the fire department gets there, unfortunately, Lindell and Gloria both have succumbed to their injuries. So when the fire department gets there and they extinguish the flames, and when they go in the house, they discover the bodies of Gloria Jean Hart and Lindell Lewis in the bathroom on the floor where they had died of smoke inhalation. Immediately, the investigators get on it and they're trying to figure out what happened. This fire literally just kind of came out of nowhere. So they bring out a canine unit the next day, and the canine unit is able to detect an accelerant and things of that nature that basically mean arson. And sure enough, the canine finds an accelerant. So the investigators, they start looking around. Now, here's something that I found kind of funny. While everybody is standing outside the night of the fire, looking at the fire, waiting on the fire department and everything, everybody's in the neighborhood is outside with the exception of Stanley Ford and his family. So the investigators are going around the neighborhood and they're talking to the residents and they're asking them what they saw and who they think did it and everything. And Chester, he speaks up. He was like, "Look, check this out. I ain't no snitch, but I'm pretty sure Stanley was behind this. Stanley Ford." Tom, on the other hand, he didn't give a fuck. He was not thinking about anybody but Stanley. He told the investigators Lindell and Stanley had been beefing to the point that before Lindell died, he had told his ex wife, Francine, "If anything ever happens to me, look at Stanley Ford." So naturally, when the police hear this, they go and they talk to Stanley. They go knock on his door and they ask to speak with him, but he flat out tells them, "I ain't see nothing. I don't know nothing. I was asleep." And this is where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
now, if you're going to try to fool the police, the last thing you need to be is hostile and uncooperative. The last thing you need to be is difficult with them because they're not going to think that you innocent when you making things more difficult or when you're being more standoffish. Not to mention there's camera footage. Remember, Lindell and Chester both had cameras on Stanley's house. So the police obtained their permission and they get the security footage and they see a figure walking toward Lindell's house at close to 3 o'clock in the morning. And they're looking, but they can't really see the man's face. But it's clear that he walks over to Lindell's house and then he disappears towards the direction of Stanley's house multiple times, like 3 times total. But they can't see for sure. So on April 22nd, 2016, Lindell's funeral is held at the Second Baptist Church in Akron, Ohio. And the following day, on April 23rd, Gloria's funeral is held at Zion Temple Baptist Church, also in Akron, Ohio. Now, at this point, the whole neighborhood is up in arms. Everybody is scared. There's just this big ass charred house where Lindell's house used to be. Now, eventually, they did end up tearing it down, and it's just like a big empty lot now. But, then everybody has that reminder to just be there. Everybody in the neighborhood is frightened. They don't know what happened. They don't know who did it, but they know for sure that it was arson. The investigators made that clear. But the question is, who is it? Everybody in the neighborhood is looking at each other. Stanley's going around the neighborhood telling people, "Y'all know that Lindell has some shifty people in his life. Y'all know he was letting drug dealers and prostitutes over there. It was ungodly. It was sinful. It was not of God. Fire and brimstone." Hmm. Odd choice of words to have. But, other people, they honestly were thinking that it was Stanley. They just weren't 100% sure, except for Tom. Tom had his eye on Stan the entire time. He was on that ass like Diddy. Again, I got to stop doing that. Sorry. But, the investigators, they're everywhere. They're trying to find out what's going on. They even went to Lindell's ex-wife and they thought that she was a suspect, which is pretty much standard because anytime you have murder, and you have a person that has a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, they're automatically gonna kind of zone in on them first because typically in most situations where a murder occurs, it's at the hands of the spouse. So they went to Francine and was just like, yo, we think you had something to do with Lindell being killed. And she's like, are y'all crazy? Like, she was like, listen, we ain't together no more. I don't want to be with him no more, but that's still my kid's dad. That's still somebody that I care for. And, they start doing a little bit of digging and they find out that Francine actually had a life insurance policy on Lindell that he didn't know about. But she's like, "Yes, that happens. Like, eh, he's my kid's dad. He's, elderly. He's injured. I'm trying to make sure that they good. So what? Just because she had a life insurance policy don't mean she trying to kill his ass. Not to mention that even Lindell himself said, if something happens to me, look at Stanley Ford. But because she was the ex-spouse, they had to bring her in for questioning and all of that. And she was like, yeah, I can tell y'all exactly who did it. Stanley Ford. That's who my ex said did it. It wasn't me. Y'all are wasting good, valuable time and resources. Look elsewhere, buddy. And I get it. It can be a bit much and everything because like I said, you got to rule out 9 times out of 10 it's gonna be the spouse. I mean, it's rare that it's not, but yeah, they got to do their jobs. So I get it, to an extent. So time is going on and people haven't necessarily forgotten, but they're moving on with their lives. And Stanley's becoming more dominant in the neighborhood. Well, not more dominant, he's becoming more of a terror in the neighborhood. He is like constantly terrorizing the kids and, telling them that they have to be well behaved. And he's making sure that the neighbors' houses are good, that their yards are clean, going around, hey there, Mr. Johnson. Better make sure that you got this and that in check. Hey, all right, I see that your begonias is 2 quarters over the lot. Like that kind of dude, like real unnecessary for no fucking reason. You know what I'm saying? And one of his close neighbors was Beverly Ewing. And she lived next door to Nigel Sims. Now, remember, I told y'all Sam's, excuse me, was the one that had the son or whatever that he was accusing. So one day, Beverly's car gets broken into, and she's just, she's distraught. And of course, she's scared because her husband is gone. He's always out of town for work. So it's just her. And of course, Stanley's outside because he's a stay at home dad. This nigga don't work. All he does is just sit at the house with the girls. So, he sees Beverly and he's like, well, what's wrong? And she tells him, somebody broke into my car. And he was like, "Oh, it's that hoodlum next door, that neighbor of yours." And he's like, "All right, don't you worry about it. I'm gonna go talk to him." Now, this is around 2017 at this point. Like the fire happened in April of 2016, but now it's the beginning of a new year. And like I said, people are trying to move on. So when he says, "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to him," Beverly's like, "No, no, no, no. I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe you should just leave it alone." But instead of doing that, oddly enough, on January 23rd, 2017, a car catches fire at 723 Russell Street, and that car belongs to Nigel Sims. And I'm just like, the irony is, you just tell this man that their child, or you just told this person, hey, your child is over here breaking into cars, and they tell you, stay the fuck away from my son. And then boom, the next thing you know, the car catches fire. Yeah, that is so suspect. Like this, oh, you didn't even try. You didn't even try to hide that shit. So at this point, everybody's thinking the same damn thing. This little boy was just accused of breaking into cars in the neighborhood and all of that. And then the next thing you know, their car has caught fire. Like, what a coincidence. So the police come out and they investigate, but they don't have much to go on once again. It's clearly arson though, because whoever set the car on fire, i.e., Stanley, they put a rag in the gas tank, and that's what caused the car to implode. So even though the cops are suspicious of Stanley, especially because of his little cocky ass attitude and his overall arrogance about the entire situation, again, they don't have much to get him on this time. Oh, but they watching that ass. So time goes by, and Stanley decides that he wants to buy another house. Now, there's a house that's on his block that he's interested in purchasing, and it's not too far from him and his childhood home. Now, I do believe that it was actually across the street and a few houses down, close to Lindell's, what is, I guess, like now the lot where his house used to be. So Stanley is eyeing the house because he wants to purchase it so that way, he can kind of control who lives there in the neighborhood. Now, technically, he could rent out his mother's house, but he decided to just kind of preserve the house that he grew up in. Like the only addition that he put in the house that he grew up in was a security alarm system, which, by the way, is going to be important later on in this case. But he installs a security system in his childhood home after that whole incident where his window had been busted out. So he wanted to keep his mother's house safe. He used her house basically as like a storage facility, but he could have rented that property if he wanted to. So he's trying to decide about buying a house, but you snooze, you lose. You move slow. Well, you know how that go. So before he can get the house, he finds out that it's been sold and that a new family is moving in. And before the family could even move in, he's already being judgmental. He's telling his wife Zanita, it must be some crackheads or something that's about to buy that house. Like for real, nigga, what is it with you and crackheads? Not everybody a crackhead. Like, damn, Judge Mathis, you smoke crack? Do you smoke crack? Huh? Shit. So a few weeks go by and a very beautiful family move in, the Huggins Boggs family. Now, this is a rather large family. It consisted of the husband, Dennis Huggins, born in 1982, his wife, Angela Boggs, born in 1979, Angela's oldest daughter, Brittany Boggs, born in 1999, her son, Jared Boggs, born in 2003, and together, Dennis and Angela had four kids, two daughters and two sons. Deja Huggins, born in 2011, Kyle Huggins, born in 2012, Olivia Huggins, born in 2014, and Cameron Huggins, who was born in 2016. So they are all, along with their dog, one big happy family, one big ass interracial family. Oh, yeah, did I forget to mention that? Yeah, Dennis was black and Angela was white. So they move into the house together. They're very loving. They took care of each other. Dennis was actually retired. He wasn't a bum or trifling or nothing like that. Like he was a stay-at-home daddy like Stanley. But Dennis had both an associate's and a bachelor's degree. He was working, but naturally having that many kids so young, daycare is hella expensive. Hell, I got one in daycare and it's 200 a week. So when he and Angela sat down and they mapped out, how much they're earning versus what they're spending, it was actually cheaper for him to stay home than to put the kids in daycare because you got fucking four that are the itty bitties, that's got to go to daycare. That's shit. I could just imagine. God damn, like she blinks, she get pregnant. I hope after that last one she had her tubes tied. Well, at this point it doesn't matter. But so it was cheaper for him to stay home than putting the kids in daycare. And whenever Angela would get pregnant, of course, he went to work because obviously she couldn't work between having the babies and recovering because they were having those babies back to back. But Angela was also employed. Angela actually worked at DaVita Dialysis. Now, her mom, Ruth, she lived in Florida, and her mother was so happy that Angela had moved to Ohio and she had met Dennis because she was getting a new life. In her younger years, Angela had been married to this complete jackass by the name of Patrick Boggs. Now, Patrick and Angela, they were married for a while, and he is the father of Angela's two oldest children, Brittany and Jared. Patrick was in prison because Patrick did something very stupid. Patrick was very abusive, and unfortunately, Angela was at the receiving end of his abuse for quite a while. It got to the point that he was so abusive that one day he put Angela in the bathtub, put lighter fluid on her, and tried to set her on fire. Now, she managed to escape and call 911, and they came and arrested him, and he did 12 years in prison for it. During that time frame, Angela was able to, move on in her life, and she met Dennis and she fell in love, and they had four kids together plus her two kids. So they were a very big family. Now not all of them lived in the house, however. Brittany, I believe she lived elsewhere, but she was very close to her siblings. So, once they move into the neighborhood, they're unpacking, and here comes this lurking ass Stanley, this burnt bacon looking ass nigga. He's out with his wife and kids and all of that for one of their little strolls when he sees the Huggins family. And they introduce themselves. And at first, Stanley, he's quite impressed when he learns that they attend church and they're very religious. And he's thinking, okay, I might not have any worries with them after all. But that doesn't last too long because shortly after they move in, Stanley notices something about Dennis. He comes outside one evening to do God knows what, because it ain't like the nigga's working. And he sees Dennis out there talking to a friend of his. And Dennis is hustling some weed to his friend. Now, it's not like he's just some major dope boy running the block. Like he was passing off a little dime bag to his friend. But that was all Stanley needed to see. Oh, you sinner, may God strike his wrath upon you. And Dennis is confused. Like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? Like, what is he talking about? Stanley is just going in. He's telling him, "You don't belong here. We don't do that in this neighborhood. You a drug dealer. You a crackhead." Again, this nigga think he Judge Mathis or some shit. But, Dennis checked him and he was like, "Yo, you need to calm the fuck down. Ain't nobody no drug dealer. What you talking about?" But Stanley, he's not convinced. And so he warns Dennis, "This my block, boy. You better watch yourself." Okay, Grandpa. Now, Dennis's stepson, Jared, and Nigel's son, they, got cool. They're hanging out all the time and they're having fun and they're doing what typical teenagers do. They get into, a little bit of trouble, but nothing that requires the harsh punishment that Stanley wanted. Actually, I take that back. Some of the things that they did were questionable and could technically get them locked up, like looking into people's cars and all of that. And Dennis, of course, he checked his son when he found out what he was up to. Like he actually was like siding with Stanley somewhat, and he was like, "Yo, you don't want to end up going to jail like your pops, like good old, Patrick." Okay, so he didn't actually say that, but y'all get where I'm going with it. He was trying to discourage him from doing wrong. And when Stanley finds out that he just talked to him, he's like, "No, that ain't enough. Just talking to him." So he tells Dennis, "If you don't get this under control, I'ma do something." Oh, baby, Dennis squared up on Stanley, got up in this all belongs face and told him, "You not gonna put a fucking hand on my son. I wish the fuck you would." Baby, one thing you don't do is threaten a child when you a whole grown ass adult. Now, in my day, the whole fucking neighborhood raised you, and you get your ass whooped by your parents, then go outside and your auntie and them would whoop your ass, and it would be a never ending cycle. Just be raw by the end of the day. Like you got fucked by dick. I got to stop that. I'm sorry. Y'all, I'ma behave. I'm sorry. Now, the more that the Huggins are getting comfortable there, the more friends that they're making, and the more friends that they're inviting over. For example, Dennis's brother, Tennis or Tinus, I'm pretty sure that's how he says it. Like it's got a weird spelling. I'ma just call him Ty. Cause Lord, I'm about to sound like Willie from Melanin Mysteries fucking up these names. Shout out to Melanin Mysteries, by the way. But, he would come over a lot after church and they would hang out. And, they would have people outside tossing a football, playing cards, drinking beer, whatever, whatever, like most normal neighbors. But again, Stanley ain't normal. Like, he hates this shit. He's complaining to his wife, Zanita, all the time. They outside disrespecting my neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. And I'm just like, damn, nigga, aren't you sick of this shit by now? Because Lord knows, I'm pretty sure everybody in the neighborhood is. It's a house full of parents and kids. These kids are going to have friends in the neighborhood. They want to come play. Not to mention the adults got friends. So what the hell is the problem? They not hurting you. Nobody's injuring you. They even tried to get your daughters to come hang out too, but he wasn't having that either. His daughters weren't allowed to go near them. They offered him a beer and he's just like, I don't drink of that. That's a sin. Don't get drunk. The Bible says not to drink to be drunk. It says not to drink to be drunk. It doesn't say that you can't drink, fool. Jesus turned water into wine. We all know this. You can drink, but don't drink to get drunk. Everybody knows that. But of course, take the words and twist them how you want to twist them. Okay. And so, Angela and Dennis, they're about fed up with Stanley just as much as he's fed up with them. And so Dennis, he tells his girl, he was like, baby, I'm getting real sick of this man all the time. He running off at the mouth. He need to go sit his ass down somewhere. And, Angela, she's trying to calm him down. She tells him, baby, I know he's just a grumpy old man. I tell you what, why don't we take a vacation? And they do just that. Dennis and Angela pack up their kids and their dog and they head to Florida to visit her mother. And they are having a blast in Florida, like so much so that they considered moving there. When they do come back to Ohio, Angela and Dennis, they sit their kids down at the dinner table and, they start talking one night. And they said, hey, listen, we've been thinking. We know that you guys like it up here, but what y'all think about moving to Florida? And the kids are like, "Oh hell yeah, let's go." It's hot. It's nice. The weather is great. You ain't got to deal with no snow. Shit, put me in your suitcase. And Dennis is happy because Angela had already told him that she could transfer her job anywhere because there was a location in Florida. Plus, she was planning on filing for her divorce from Patrick. Now, I know you heard me say that her husband was Dennis earlier. They're not legally married. They had what was called a common law marriage. She was still very much legally married to Patrick, but she was ready to end that so that, she could move on with her life with Dennis. After all, they do got 4 kids together. And that motherfucker Patrick was in prison for a very long time. I'm just saying. So now that they've got the confirmation that they want, they decide to pack up the house and move to Florida. But sadly, that day would never come. May 5th, 2017, Angela wakes up to the smell of smoke. Immediately, she's frightened because she's thinking about the situation that occurred with her and her husband. So she starts shaking Dennis awake. Babe, get up. I think the house is on fire. And he jumps up and he goes to look. And sure enough, he sees that the downstairs is on fire. With limited amount of time, he's running through the house, grabbing the kids. Get up, get up. The house is on fire. Come on, we got to go. Help, somebody help. So he grabs all of them and he's running down the stairs. But the fire has now spread throughout the entire downstairs. So there's no way for them to get out. So he grabs the kids again and he grabs his wife and he takes them back upstairs and he's trying to find an escape. Angela, in the meantime, she gets her phone and she calls 911, but oddly enough, the call doesn't go through for whatever reason. So she hangs up and she tries to call again, but once again, the call does not go through. And there's a record of this on her cell phone showing that she tried to call twice. And by some weird, like, string of events, she couldn't get a 911 dispatcher. But Stanley's wife, Zanita, she wakes up and she looks to see that the house at 693 Fultz Avenue is fully engulfed. So she calls 911 and she's screaming and crying, please help. My neighbor's house is on fire. They've got kids. Oh God, please help. Everybody is once again standing outside watching the house ablaze, trying to figure out if the residents are inside or if they made it out. And so Zanita wakes Stanley up, but he ain't interested in the least. Like, in fact, this raggedy, shaped like the letter P ass nigga opens his front door and tells the people that are standing on his lawn watching to get the hell off his property. Like, what the actual fuck? So the fire department comes out and they connect their hose to the fire hydrant only to find out that there's no water because since the last fire that occurred in 2016, it was broken. Now, I have my thoughts about that because why the fuck did a whole year pass and nobody bothered to check that fucking hydrant? Because that other fire was in 2016 in fucking April, and here it is May of 2017. But I'm going to get back to that later. So the firefighters now see that the hydrant has no water, and that's slowing them down. So they had to go 2 blocks over to get a water source to start putting out the fire. Sadly, on May 5th, 2017, 35-year-old Dennis Huggins, 38-year-old Angela Boggs, 14-year-old Jared Boggs, 6-year-old Deja Huggins, 5-year-old Kyle Huggins, 3-year-old Olivia Huggins, and 16-month-old Cameron Huggins, along with their family dog, all perished. The firefighters get the fire out and they enter the house to find Dennis and Angela and their children all in the bedroom with Dennis and Angela literally covering their children. Babies. They were babies, man. This this was not the way to do this. Like, mm, I know it's not time for fair or foul, y'all, but come on, man. Like, the senseless shit that was done, a toddler, a 16-month-old, like, no regard for human life at all. And I said I was gonna save it for fair or foul, but this shit just fuck, it gets to me. Like, I've been in a situation where I almost lost my child. I watched him be put on an operating table and them tell me that they weren't sure that he was gonna make it. So I can imagine what it's like to almost lose a child. I could not imagine a 16-month-old baby. Like, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know usually I don't get emotional, but that was so. I want to post the pictures in the group so that you can see, but it was heartbreaking seeing the images of these babies and knowing that basically a fucking monster did this to them. Like, you had no fucking regard for human life. And for those that can't figure out why I've been going in on him since the start of this episode, this is why. Because he took innocent kids, he literally killed innocent children. It's one thing to have beef with a grown ass person. It's one thing to have beef with his daddy or to have beef with your neighbor or whatever. But and even then the shit was fucking stupid. Even then the shit didn't make no sense. You killed him because he was throwing parties. You killed these kids and they didn't have shit to do with it. They were doing what the fuck they were supposed to do. Being kids, you sadistic, twisted, sick bitch. You killed those babies. You got daughters of your fucking own that was the same age as these kids. You kept your kids in a bubble, but yet you literally left these babies to die. They died of fucking smoke inhalation. Cameron was a fucking toddler. A toddler, 16 months old. Then you got this baby who had the prettiest smile in the world, Olivia. Kyle, Jared. All of these babies are gone. Deja. You had a woman that didn't do anything, that was being supportive. They were moving. You didn't even fucking know that they were planning on leaving. But you want to sit up here and quote the Bible? You want to sit up here and talk about what God said? This is why so many people leave the church. I am a devout Christian. I know I cuss like a sailor. I know sometimes I cuss so much I will make a sailor bow down. But I am a devout Christian. I believe in God wholeheartedly. I have never once gone around and preached and said that God said to burn someone's house down because I disagreed with what they do. Because I think that they're a drug dealer or I think that they're a crackhead. I think that you're a fucking idiot. I think that you're an asshole. I think that you're a bum. I think that you're a fucking loser because you fucking killed them kids that didn't have shit to do with it. And you used it under the guise of God? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Oof. Ooh, shit. Y'all, I apologize. Every now and then I will see a case or come across a case that it enrages me. I have done so many episodes. So many. I've had other cases. If y'all are adamant listeners, y'all know I've done other cases where there have been deaths of minors or abuse of minors. Next to the Anaya Day case, that one was another one that got to me that I had to seriously like step away. And damn, I wish I could drink right now. But I promised myself I was going to go 30 days with no liquor or soda. I really wish I could drink right now because this shit has me hot. It is so many people that take the Bible and they just twist it into their own reality or their own fantasies or their own beliefs instead of taking it at face value, instead of taking it at what it actually says. There, if we went by the Bible and lived every freaking word of the Bible, none of us would be here. None. Because the Bible talks about a lot of things that we're not supposed to do. My black ass would be burning right now. If it said that I could go to hell for tattoos, I'm going to hell. If it said that I could go to hell for premarital sex, burning. If it said that I could, that I could go to hell for drinking to be drunk. You know how many times I've been pissy ass drunk? Wasn't the plan, but it happened. Burning. But people take what they want to take. Spare the rod, spoil the child. They take the 10 Commandments and act like nothing else in that Bible matters. If you going to quote the Bible, make sure you live the Bible 100%. And nowhere in the Bible did it say that it was okay to commit murder and kill innocent children. Because if anything, it also says in the Bible that God protects babies and fools. And if you claiming that you God, like you were acting like, yeah. See, I got to step away from this for this week. I got to step away. This is where I'm going to stop today's episode. Like, if you remember, I told y'all it's a lot of information. Whew, woosah. So next week, y'all are going to get the conclusion of this case. I don't think it's going to be enough for 3 weeks worth, but you never know. I do think it's definitely enough for 2 weeks. So I'm stopping this episode here. That is all for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And that's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. But again, please be advised if you don't answer the questions, you are not getting in. I honestly can't say it any more simpler. It's 3 simple questions. It's easy. Just answer the damn questions. Once you get in, hey, what's up? We shout you out, we chop it up. Welcome to the mob. Like we talk about the real in there, we post goofy stuff, but we're a tight little family, so to speak. Plus, I do the giveaways and all of that and whatnot. And I got a giveaway coming up in the group within the next couple of days. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So please leave a review. It only takes a few seconds, and the reviews do matter. Okay. And speaking of reviews, y'all, I am so excited because I am so close to reaching 100 views on Apple Podcast. Right now, I think I'm at 91 reviews, so I need 9 more reviews on Apple Podcasts to hit that 100 mark. But, yeah, let me go ahead and do a couple of these reviews now, so that way, yeah, y'all can, know what's up. The first one is from Apple Podcasts, and it's a 5-star review from J King 334, and it says, "I love this podcast. It's refreshing to hear a true crime podcast that goes into great depth for each case. I started listening a week ago and have been binging ever since. I guess you can say I'm officially a member of the mob." That's what I am talking about. Let's go, mob. Ride with the mob. Hamdulillah, or whatever the hell he said. I don't know. Make sure you join the Facebook discussion group if you're not in it already, J King 334, so you can be an official mobber. The next review comes from Apple Podcast as well, and it was actually on the Tracy Burleson episode. This one comes from Home Chips. Cute username. All right. It says, like father, like son. I saw the show they did about this, but they left out a lot. Master Manipulator Tracy, I think his name was, he wanted things done, but didn't want them hands dirty. I get the feeling he had plans for a new church, set the fire, collect the insurance, kill the wife, collect that insurance, then open up a new church and all the members come running and have sympathy. More money, more money, more money. Whatever he was planning didn't work because that son wasn't really up to that. Little Miss Side Chick should have gotten more time because she was definitely planning right along with him. The son, I don't know, because how can he survive in jail? Sickle cell ain't no walk in the park, but okay. Listen, when I say period, you said exactly what it is, baby. That nigga wanted everybody to do his dirty work, but wanted to act like he was so big and bad. Baby, God got a special spot in hell just for him. Trust and believe. Yet another example of folks taking the word and just see, this is what I'm talking about. Now I actually have a review from Amazon, which is rare because I think I've only had like two. But I have a review from Amazon and it comes from Leslie. I think that's Leslie A. And it's 5 stars. It says, "Storytelling like no other. No one can tell a story like Kay. You will be locked in as soon as you hear her voice. The way you can feel and see what she is saying is everything. Take a listen. You will not be disappointed. Have your popcorn ready." Oh, thank you, Leslie. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Yes. Y'all got a girl feeling real special up in here. Now, I know y'all were listening for the whole what was the reason and fair or foul, and I kind of sort of started it, but because it is a continuation for this episode, you'll hear it next week, okay? Trust me, I got a lot more shit to say as to the fair or foul with this one. Today, I just got a little, emotional, and I apologize for that, but, the shit like this is just, like I said, yeah. So like I said, it'll be available next week. Just a few reminders. If you have not got your tickets yet, you literally have until Tuesday morning when the prices go up for the Infamous Ones live show, which is Saturday, June 14th, 2025 at the Margaritaville in Atlanta, Georgia, located at 155 Centennial Olympic Park Drive, right next to that big ass carousel. Right now, tickets are $65. Only 30 tickets are being sold because I'm doing a small and intimate live show. It's going to be filmed. I think it's like maybe 10 to 14 tickets left. There will be a photographer there taking pictures of everybody. You'll be able to take one-on-one photos with myself, along with Tiffany and Willie from Melanin Mysteries and the country girl Renee from Melanin Mayhem. We've got a major announcement at that event between myself and Melanin Mysteries. So I would definitely get your ticket if I was you. Tuesday, April 1st, the ticket prices go up to $100. Now, the tickets, on top of everything else, they do include your meal as far as your appetizer, your entree, and your dessert, and everything in addition to the photography and all of that. I'm going to be doing an episode that is very near and dear to my heart, and there is a party that is directly involved that will be there speaking on their experience of it as well. So it is one that you do not want to miss. Make sure that you get your tickets now. They are only 30 tickets being sold, and it is going to be a whole ass vibe, baby. Again, Saturday, June 14th, 2025 at 2 p.m. at the Margaritaville 155 Centennial Olympic Park Drive. You can purchase your tickets on Eventbrite. You cannot just pop your ass up there. You have to have a ticket scanned from your phone, okay? Also, Saturday, July 12th, 2025, you will see me with Melanin Mysteries in Cleveland, Ohio. Melanin Mysteries is celebrating their 1 year anniversary in Cleveland from, I believe, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. They'll be at the Cleveland Metro Parks, Bedford. Y'all already know how Tiffany and Willie get down. I'm pretty sure Willie gonna be on 1,000 and Po Tiffany. With me and Willie in the same spot, she gonna be putting out fires left and right. But it is gonna be a good ass time. It is free. They're gonna have food and fun and all kind of stuff to celebrate their first anniversary. Like I said, your girl is actually gonna get on a plane because y'all know I hate fucking flying. But I'm gonna catch a flight. I'm gonna fly out or whatever to Cleveland and go and have a good little time with my people. So, I really hope to see y'all there. On another note, I told y'all that this was coming. So remember, I was telling y'all my book Captive was supposed to drop on March 31st. It is now going to drop on April 7th because my editor needed a little bit more time. So no worries if you are waiting on the release on Amazon Kindle. It is still coming. It's coming April 7th, though. I am excited because it's in my editor's hands as we speak. A couple of more things. So I am going to be featured on a podcast for the month of April. I believe the last month you'll be able to catch me on Not My Brother, excuse me, not last month, but the last week of the month of April, you'll be able to catch me on Not My Brother's Keeper podcast. And then in May, I will have Willie from Melanin Mysteries on my podcast. So y'all stay tuned for that. Oh, and then last but not least, the YouTube channel is almost ready. I will be dropping my YouTube channel April 20th. Yeah, I know that's a important holiday for a lot of y'all. Listen, it was just the day I picked, damn it. Okay. April 20th, I will be dropping my YouTube channel with a brand new episode that is specifically for the infamous ones. Now, I'm going to be discussing the cases that a lot of people want to hear about that has not been solved because y'all know my whole thing is the cases I discuss have gone to trial. There's been a sentencing or an execution or something. But I'm going to be discussing cases that are still ongoing that, are in the media that are unsolved, missing children, all of that, things that we don't hear about much, like with the infamous ones. My whole focus is crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about on mainstream media. So I'm going to carry that over into YouTube and you will be able to see my face. Okay. That is going to be on YouTube only. Okay. We're going to talk about stuff that's in the media. For example, the Kimani Latig case with her dad and everything. I'll be discussing that only on the YouTube channel. So you have to subscribe and like in order to see that. But I'm really excited about it. And I hope you guys are too. April 20th is the day the infamous ones YouTube is coming. If you want to support the show, or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor that y'all been sipping on and that water that I've been sipping on, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. Subscriptions start at like 99 cents, I think, and it gives you access to stuff that the listeners don't get, especially once this YouTube channel drops. You can also donate via the Cash App at $infamous1pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Y'all know donations go toward research and court documents and all of that because not everything is free. So it goes towards mainly the research and everything. And of course, shout out to my popcorn gang, gang, gang. I love my popcorn mobbers. They so much love. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, by the way, I will be running a $30 ad special. So if you want to promote your work, if you have a company that you want people to know about, hit up my inbox, hit up my email. Or if you want to leave a review, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. Once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast is growing by the day and it means the world. So please keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next Sunday with a new episode. Stay mobbing, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.